The cameras were flashing. The world was watching. And in that moment, Will Smith knew everything he had built could disappear in an instant. The joke, the laughter, and then her reaction. In just seconds, something inside Will snapped.
Ow! Will Smith just smacked out of me.
Keep my wife's name out your mouth.
Wow!
This wasn't just an award show meltdown. It was the moment that could cost him everything. For over 3 decades, Will Smith was Hollywood's golden boy. A record-breaking rapper. A box office king. A family man. The Fresh Prince himself. But in just one slap, everything changed. Overnight, he became the villain of his own story. But was this really about love? Or was this a breaking point years in the making? What really led to this moment? And was this the fall, or just the beginning of a shocking redemption story? To understand what happened at the Oscars, we need to go back to the very beginning. Before the fame, the fortune, and the Hollywood lights, there was just a kid from Philly. A kid who was funny, smart, and charismatic. A kid who, in many ways, was running from something much darker. Willard Carroll Smith Jr. was born on September 25, 1968, in West Philadelphia. His mother was a school administrator. His father, a strict Air Force veteran and refrigeration engineer. But behind closed doors, his childhood wasn't always the picture of success. At just 9 years old, Will witnessed something that haunted him for the rest of his life, his father hitting his mother so hard, she collapsed. And in that moment, Will made a decision. He wouldn't fight back. Instead, he would become the entertainer. The peacemaker. The one who made everyone laugh. Humor became his escape. And soon, that escape became a career. By 16, Will formed a rap duo with his best friend, DJ Jazzy Jeff. And in 1988, they made history, winning the first ever Grammy for Best Rap Performance. But with success came trouble. Will Smith went from a teenage millionaire to being broke. The IRS seized his home, his cars, and demanded he pay back $2.8 million in unpaid taxes. It seemed like the dream was over. But then, Hollywood came knocking. In 1990, NBC took a chance on him. They offered him the lead role in a sitcom, based loosely on his own life, The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. The show made him a household name. And for 6 seasons, America fell in love with the Fresh Prince. But what most people didn't know was that Will Smith was memorizing not just his lines, but everyone else's too. Because Will wasn't just playing a character, he was studying, learning, preparing for something bigger. And soon, he would make a transition that very few actors had ever pulled off. Will Smith was about to go from TV star to the biggest box office king in the world. July 4, 1996. Independence Day wasn't just a holiday, it was the day a young actor named Will Smith proved he was more than just a sitcom star. He was a movie star. And not just any movie star, the biggest in the world. From 1995 to 2008, every summer blockbuster seemed to have one thing in common: Will Smith. He wasn't just an actor, he was a guarantee. A guarantee that the movie would make hundreds of millions of dollars. A guarantee that audiences would show up. A guarantee that, for 2 hours, you'd be entertained. From 2002 to 2008, every single Will Smith movie was a #1 box office hit. A streak unheard of in Hollywood. But what made Will Smith different? Will wasn't just making movies. He was crafting a formula. A science. He famously created a checklist for choosing roles: action, comedy, romance, and a special effects-driven spectacle. If a script didn't check all 4 boxes, he didn't take it. And that formula worked. By 2008, Forbes officially named Will Smith the most bankable star in Hollywood. His movies had grossed over $6.6 billion worldwide. And then, he did something nobody saw coming. After years of dominating summer blockbusters, Will Smith took a risk. Instead of aliens and explosions, he took on real-life drama, The Pursuit of Happyness. He had already shown his dramatic chops in Ali, but The Pursuit of Happyness was different. It was raw, emotional, and for the first time, the world saw Will Smith in a way they had never seen before, vulnerable. It earned him his second Oscar nomination. And suddenly, he wasn't just an action star, he was a serious actor. By now, Will Smith wasn't just a movie star. He was a brand. He had the perfect career, the perfect family, the perfect life. At least, that's what it looked like. But behind the cameras, behind the red carpets, cracks were starting to show. Will had built an empire. But could he hold on to it? On the surface, Will Smith had it all, the fame, the fortune, the perfect family. But behind the cameras, behind the smiles, something wasn't right. And soon, the world would see the cracks in the fairy tale. It was one of the most humiliating moments in Hollywood history. But for Will, it was just another chapter in a much deeper struggle. To understand what led Will Smith to this moment, we have to go back to where his deepest wounds began. Will grew up feeling powerless. And that fear of not being a man enough never left him. For years, rumors swirled about Will and Jada's unconventional marriage. The couple had repeatedly denied allegations of an open relationship until the bombshell dropped in 2020. The world watched in shock as Jada confirmed she had been in a relationship with singer August Alsina while still married to Will. But it wasn't the confession that broke the internet, it was Will's reaction. In that moment, the Fresh Prince looked broken. The internet turned his pain into a joke. The man who had spent decades making people laugh was now the punchline. For years, Will Smith had kept his emotions in check. He had played the part of the perfect man, the perfect husband, the perfect father. But on that night, at the 94th Academy Awards, he broke. In one moment of rage, Will Smith shattered his own legacy. The man who had once been Hollywood's most beloved star was now its most controversial figure. The backlash was immediate. Major studios put his projects on hold. Public opinion turned against him. And for the first time in his career, Will Smith was truly alone.
Chris, I apologize to you. My behavior.
But was an apology enough? Or had Will Smith gone too far to ever come back? Hollywood's biggest night, the Oscars, a celebration of the best in film. But tonight, the world would remember only one moment. A simple joke, or at least, that's how Chris Rock saw it. But to Will Smith, this was personal.
Will Smith just smacked the out of me.
At first, the audience thought it was a bit. A scripted stunt. But then, reality set in. A moment that would become one of the most infamous in live television history. A moment that would divide Hollywood. And a moment that would change Will Smith's career forever. Within minutes, social media was ablaze. Memes. Outrage. Support. Confusion. Was this an act of love? An overreaction? Or a man at his breaking point? The Academy was quick to respond. Within days, Will Smith was banned from the Oscars for 10 years. Projects were put on hold. Deals fell through. Hollywood, the very machine that had built him up, was now tearing him down.
Chris, I apologize to you. My behavior.
But was an apology enough? Or had Will Smith already done irreversible damage? Chris Rock stayed silent for months. Then he hit back on his own terms. A sold-out Netflix special where he took aim at Will and Jada. And in that moment, the roles were reversed. Chris was no longer the victim. He was in control. And Will Smith? He was the one being laughed at. The Fresh Prince. The king of the box office. A man who had spent his entire career making people smile had become the villain of his own story. For the first time in his career, Will Smith wasn't sure if the world wanted him back. But was this truly the end? Or was there one final chapter left to be written? For over 3 decades, Will Smith was untouchable. A global icon. The ultimate movie star. But now, Hollywood had turned its back on him. The question was, could he come back? After the Oscars, Will Smith disappeared from the spotlight. No interviews. No press tours. Just silence. But behind the scenes, he was plotting his next move. His first step? Apologizing. A carefully crafted video. A somber tone. But was it enough? The response was mixed. Some accepted his apology. Others saw it as Hollywood PR. But what really mattered was whether the industry was willing to forgive him. For the first time in his career, Will Smith wasn't in control. Studios hesitated. Brands distanced themselves. The industry that once relied on him was now looking for the next box office king. But slowly, the tide began to shift. Some projects that had been put on hold were now quietly being revived. His first comeback attempt, Emancipation. A dramatic, Oscar-bait film based on a true story. But after the controversy, audiences weren't sure whether to embrace him or reject him. The film didn't flop, but it wasn't a hit either. The damage had been done. Will Smith was still facing an uphill battle. Then, his biggest lifeline. Bad Boys 4. One of his most beloved franchises was officially back on track. Hollywood wasn't shutting him out completely. But was the audience ready to welcome him back? For some, the slap was unforgivable. For others, it was a mistake, one that didn't erase decades of legendary performances. Even as he tried to rebuild, Chris Rock wasn't letting it go. His Netflix special Selective Outrage took direct aim at Will, reigniting the controversy. Will had always been the funny guy, the one making jokes. But now? He was the one being laughed at. But in an era where cancel culture is ruthless, is Hollywood really ready to forgive? Some actors never recover. Others find redemption. The question is, which one will Will Smith be? The Fresh Prince? The box office king? The man who once had the world in the palm of his hand? Now? He's still rebuilding. Still waiting to see if the world is ready to forgive. For over a year, Hollywood kept its distance. Studios hesitated. Audiences weren't sure. But slowly, the industry started to welcome him back. He's saving grace? Bad Boys 4. A franchise built on action, comedy, and nostalgia. But nostalgia can only take you so far. Would audiences still show up for Will Smith? Hollywood is a machine that runs on one thing: profit. If Bad Boys 4 succeeds, it could open the doors for a full comeback. But if it flops, Will Smith's redemption story may never get written. There are signs of redemption. Audiences haven't completely abandoned him. But the days of Will Smith being the biggest star in the world? Those may be over. Some fans are all in. Others say he'll never be the same. And in Hollywood, perception is everything. New projects are in development. But the industry is watching. Studios aren't giving him the blank check they once did. They want proof that Will Smith is still worth the investment. Meanwhile, Chris Rock isn't letting it go. And as long as the joke lives on, so does the controversy. Hollywood is a place of second chances. But not everyone gets one. So the question remains, will Will Smith write his redemption story? Or is he forever trapped in the shadow of one moment? Is Will Smith a legend who overcame the odds? Or a cautionary tale of what happens when fame and pressure collide? The answer is still being written.